Hello and welcome to episode 269 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is November 24th, and together with Goran, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone. So a few months ago, we had my colleague Alice on the show, who introduced a tool that would allow you to convert an OData service in an MCP, a Model Context Protocol server. Since then, we had many more talks, and we could see a lot of projects popping up that use this idea to create new MCP servers. The benefits are obvious. OData and MCP are a match made in heaven. What is often described as a shortcoming of OData, its chattiness, too much information, is a huge benefit when it comes to MCP, where you need a good description of the various tools. One other project that caught not only mine, but the attention of the whole SAP community is the OData MCP bridge on BTP, the SAP Business Technology Platform. To share more about this project, the AI data enabler, I'm happy to have Wouter, Tom, and Marian with us today. Welcome to our show. So, as always, before we start, let's have a quick intro from all of you. Marian, maybe you want to kick us off.
Yeah, sure. I'm Marian Zeis. I'm an independent developer, a really big advocate for open source, and that's why I'm a big fan of the MCP protocol.
Perfect. Tom.
I'm Tom Cenens, SAP mentor also, originating from Belgium. I'm the business unit director of S4HANA for Aden, Belgium. Yeah, and I've been on this project together with Wouter, as we came up with the idea to get started on this when we saw what actually Claude AI was doing with MCP.
Perfect. And Wouter?
Yeah, my name is Wouter Lemaire. I'm an independent consultant. I prefer to say consultant because I combine development with architecture. I love the combination of both. Also part of the SAP mentors. And yeah, I've been inspired by Alice, but also by Marian because his opening with MCPs, the SAP help and so on. I was thinking, yeah, why not like Alice SAP system to an MCP server on BTP? And yeah, Tom is my best tester at the moment. he's really challenging it to the limit.
Oh, fantastic. And I think that the results speak for themselves. So we have already, I mentioned in the intro, MCP, the Model Context Protocol. Maybe before we dive into the actual product that you have developed, Marian, can you kick us off a little and talk about MCP? What is MCP?
Yeah, just to recap a little bit what MCP is. It's not really that old. For AI, maybe it's old. It's already a year old. I think it started in October last year by Anthropic. So they have like this Model Context Protocol. That was MCP standard for. And they, like it's always called something like here's USB-C port for AI applications. I think a better term is documentation, better documentation for all the AIs or whatever possible. Like here's the diagram on the left side is all the interfaces you can use it with. You can use it with any LLM tool which provides support for MCP, not just usually like IDEs, development IDEs, but anything like Joule, like Copilot, anything can right now consume and interact with MCP. So that's why it's a pretty good tool. And on the right side, you can see what it actually can consume. For example, databases, G Drive, Git, Slack, but also very important, everything local. Like it's not just a protocol for APIs, connecting a LLM client with an API, but it's code. You can do whatever you want. For example, like especially OData, it's an API, but anything local as well. Like there's SAP MCP servers like the CAP, Fiori, UR5.
Yep.
That's mainly provided to interact with local code. I can show that in a second. But there are many more MCPs of it. Like I just discovered, I have an MCP list in my GitHub profile. Like I developed the MCP SAP nodes, so you can access via your LME client any nodes. You can access ATT APIs. The GUI, actually never tried the GUI, but that sounds interesting that you can with MCP server and the SAP GUI, SAP Docs, HANA servers, and many, many more. And like you mentioned, the OData MCP bridge, which also bridges the LLM client to OData APIs from Alice. Yeah. So
Cool.
why did it explode in the first? Because it was open source and it was mainly, or first it was mainly for developers. So that's why a lot of people like me, I was like, I have a problem. I do not have a current documentation for anything SAP related in my LLM client. For example, here is the spreadsheet importer GitHub repo. So there's many things in there, like a cup server, like Fiori Elements apps and freestyle apps. So anything is in there, and I needed always the current documentation for anything 5 related, cup related, and I couldn't do that with the current models because they're usually like a year old. So that's why I implemented a MCP server for SAP documentations, which can have a look at all the documentation which are on GitHub and SAP help and the community side as well. So for example, I made here one, also check, for example, SAP help site. So now there's a MCP server available for the LLM client, and the LLM searches, okay, I have that available. And you can see here, that's like searching for the whole documentation. And he's searching for Fiori Elements chart annotation because I said, please check annotations to create a chart on the object page in that Fiori Elements app. So it just searches docs. That's actually coming from the CUP MCP server, and the search is coming from my documentation server. So it's not just using one MCP server, it's combining. So here you can see I have many MCP servers, Fiori MCP servers. See, broken currently. Fair enough. It's fast moving AI, as Tom just said. Move fast and breaks things. And there's like Chrome DevTools MCP server. That's pretty cool because the LLM can control a browser instance. Yeah, so many MCP servers I'm currently using. You can see he's searching for the sub help. He's fetching a document because you can see here a little bit that's all JSON, so pretty hard for us to understand, but easy for the LLM. Like there's adding a chart facet. So seems like I found the right documentation, which is, I guess, not really recent in the model itself. But that helps to basically create best practice apps and check the annotation, what's the best way to actually do something and verify it. So he probably creates some annotations there. Yeah, you can see here, order items chart. I don't want to try it, but I guess that's some kind of right because it's based on the documentation as well. And if you look in on my list as well, there's like the OData bridge, but I think there's here's the OData bridge here as well, and somewhere down there is another server. Then maybe I know this person. Who's that? Is that Wouter? Did you create a MCP server as well?
Yeah, indeed.
Maybe some can showcase some of that. Like Tom, can you showcase that?
Yeah. So what Wouter, but also contribution from the community. And what is on GitHub is this BTP SAP OData to MCP server, which allows the MCP to talk to SAP. So we're connecting this to a S4HANA system, for example. So what we did was we have this MCP server that we deploy on Business Technology Platform of SAP. Wouter will later on show you the architecture and discuss that as well. And what it allows is then that you can talk to SAP. So any LLM or AI client, as already mentioned by Marian, who can consume MCP, can take advantage of this. And one of those is, of course, Microsoft Copilot. So what do you need if you want to test this out yourself, or if you want to do something like that yourself? Is a Microsoft Copilot subscription, and then also access to the Microsoft Copilot Studio, which you can see here, where you can then create a new agent. So if I click here, I say create a new agent, then I can just say create here in this step. Then we wait for a second. And then I can start adding, it's a tool in fact. So the MCP is regarded as a tool that you can add to your agent. You can say here, add a tool. And then I have to say, add a new tool. And then I can choose model context protocol here. And then I can actually give my server. So MCP server. So now, and here I would input my my MCP server URL.
Yeah.
So here I would say SAP BTP URL /MCP, and then I can use OAuth authentication, and then either use what is, of course, what depending on what it supports, and then create that agent. So I'm not going to take these steps, but that's how you would create the agent. And then once you have your agent created, you can see in the Copilot Studio that your model context protocol is there, and then you can actually start using it. And then you can see also in this case which tooling is available. So I can see here that there is discover SAP data, so it looks for services. In the meantime, we already have other versions which has database backed fuzzy search. It can then get entity metadata and then also execute sub operations, which is create, read, update, delete. And that's the way how we can actually get information from the system. So this is now in the studio where you can test, but you can also have this, of course, then in your teams deployed as an application. So in your teams, if I would say, if I have this now, this agent, and I say which SAP services can you reach, it will talk to the MCP. And then if you are not connected yet, so at first it will say, okay, I don't find a connection. Then it will say, open the connection manager, where you can actually establish that connection to your MCP. And so what we are using is OAuth authentication. Since we are running this on the platform of SAP, it can even do full single sign-on. So we have their Entra ID, which is also Microsoft, of course, connected to the BTP ES. And ES is connected to the SAP BTP platform itself. And we have full single sign-on, which goes to the backend system with principal propagation. So if I'm logged in with my Active Directory account on my computer, it would automatically authenticate me. And then I can see which services are available. So this we do with the help of whitelisting in our case. So we can whitelist, and this was now one where I was looking at materials and bill of material. But you can also, we can combine multiple MCP servers, and that's also what Marian was already talking about. You don't have to be confined to one, so you could use multiple MCP servers, and that way also connect different applications across the border. And then you can run commands like give me a bill of material. This is now real data here, for example, this. And then I can also ask questions and follow up. So I can say, for example, I want to compare two bills of materials here. Again, also real data. And then you can compare the bills of material against each other. Just as an example, you could do whatever you want in terms of looking up sales orders or doing other things. Here is also another example where I fetch data from the system. And here I can anonymize it if I want to showcase it to someone. So it becomes anonymized. But that's how the product works. So he looks for the services. He gets the metadata of how what the service looks like and what's inside of the service, and then he executes the operation to actually fetch the necessary data from the service.
This is really great, and I think when you start playing with it and really exploring what is possible, I'm actually really surprised how well a lot of these queries are actually working. And we will take a look at the architecture in a second, but one thing that I also want to call out is, as you said, you're using here in this specific example now Teams or Copilot Studio as an MCP client, basically. But for example, at SAP TechEd, SAP also announced that Joule Studio is now also able to consume MCP servers. So yet another MCP client that can be used to connect then in your specific case via the business technology platform to an SAP system, fully leveraging the whole principal propagation flow. And I think that is for me one of the really, really powerful things that MCP brings, that you have once this connection established basically, and then you don't care what the client is that actually calls these MCP servers.
Yeah,
It's a super interesting point you raise, connecting to Joule, because once they announced, I immediately said to Tom, hey, we can connect our MCP server to Joule. And take, for example, if you have Joule and you have one system on private cloud, but you have maybe another system which is not on the cloud yet, you could use use MCP server to connect that system as well. And then you can connect everything to Joule. So
absolutely, yeah.
So as a last thing, I will also show you inside of Claude AI. So what we can do in the Copilot is also we can ask for output, which is a dynamic report or JSON or other format, HTML or something like that. And then you can take it out and you can take the output out of it. Since Anthropic is the creator of MCP, they also have functionality inside of their client that you can immediately consume it inside of their client, which gives you nice dynamic dashboarding, for example. So you can do these kind of things. So I have some examples in the project here, which is interesting one. This one, for example, where we compare a pump. So I'm getting a material from SAP and it's a certain pump that is used. And then you can also ask the AI to look on the internet and look at other pumps of other brands and compare them against each other. So you get this kind of comparison matrix, for example. And so that's leveraging the power of AI to start with the prompting and get the data out of your system, but then also leveraging AI to look on the internet for information and create a comparison, and then even dashboarding and insights on top in the end.
And in your specific case, I mean, you still have this one MCP server that exposes the information, but then whether you surface it in Claude Desktop or whether you go to Copilot Studio, whether you go to Teams or other Joule, it doesn't matter to you anymore.
It's the same MCP, so there is no difference between this client and the other client in terms of which MCP is being used. We do have, there are of course still limitations in terms of how many services we can expose. So I think we hit the sweet spot at the moment, Wouter, with around 50 services per MCP. But of course, 50 really good services give you a lot of data already. So I think this one, the last one I have now is, I think, around 14 services, which already give a lot of valuable information. But I tested and we can place them next to each other. And so I had at a certain point at 5 or 6 of them running next to each other, and then he just looks for the one that is most relevant and takes that one. So you can scale that also.
Yeah, great. Nice. So this is really great. And again, I mean, I have played with the MCP service, the integration with Copilot Studio for quite some time, and it's really impressive what is possible. But I think one of the unique things that you did was to really put it on the business technology platform, which I think a lot of SAP customers, they already have the BTP in place. They have maybe their SAP system on-prem, they have an SAP Cloud Connector, they have the connectivity to BTP, they have the user management in BTP, in the IAS, in the Identity Authentication Service already configured. And now, by just installing your MCP server, you basically enable customers with their existing infrastructure to also have MCP service. And then, again, if I'm a Microsoft customer, I could easily have Copilot Studio connecting it to your MCP server on the BTP and then connect to your SAP system. So, Wouter, can you share a little more about the architecture basically behind this project?
Yeah, exactly. When I started thinking from Alice, I was thinking, how can we roll this out? How can we roll this out at the customer? I was looking at it and then we noticed, okay, we have to install something on all the computers. We need to roll out to using device management and so on. I was thinking, this might become too complicated, but it's really valuable. So then I was thinking, yeah, MCP serves on Node.js, and Node.js can run on BTP. So immediately we came on BTP. And the very first version, it was without security, not really production, ready for production, but it was a first trial to see, can we connect the dots? Can we install it on BTP? Can we run it there? Can we connect it to different agents? Can we connect it to the SAP systems on premise? That was all working fine. And then I think I released it very early in September, the first version, just on BTP with no security. But one of the things, my priorities was to fix like those technical challenges, like security, like principal propagation. In the meantime, Tom was already focusing on the output. I was focusing on the technical challenges. And yeah, quickly I was able to find a way to work around this authentication issue. And with fixing the authentication issue, we immediately have single sign-on. If you have enabled principal propagation in the cloud connector, that can all be reused, and that's all working out of the box. And yeah, I think I shared this also with Simon from the CAP, who created the CAP plugin, because he was also struggling with the same issue, and he reused, I think, some of the aspects, and now he also is able to provide secure calls in his MCP plugin. Yeah, I was not preparing the slides, but I have one slide I would like to share, because this really shows the added value and what's working. It's really a very high level slide, but the MCP server runs on BTP, and by running this on BTP, you can easily integrate it like Tom showed. You can run it in Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude. It can run in every agent. You simply connect it. Of course, the agent needs to support MCP. And behind it, you can connect your SAP systems, ECC, S4HANA on-premise, S4HANA Cloud Private, public cloud, not yet, but we are looking into that as well. One system, you could deploy multiple MCP servers, like in BTP, you have a sub-account. In a sub-account, you could have like different spaces. And if you have 3 spaces, you can deploy an MCP server to each space. And you have 3 MCP servers. And for every MCP server, you can start whitelisting APIs. So if you say, for example, one MCP server for HR only, you just whitelist the HR APIs. For another one, material management, for example, and so on. So you can really limit MCP server for specific OData. Because as Tom mentioned, that's one of the challenges we have. Yeah, Tom said we have this sweet spot of 50 at the moment, but at the moment we're also working at a version 2. I don't want to say too much about it, but because we're still really testing it out, trying it out. But in this new version, we will have a database where we have all the data, the metadata available, and we also have a UI on top of it. And I think this is a foundation that we are now setting to make it more scalable. And again, Tom is focusing on what it can do from an output perspective. I'm focusing on the technical challenges. And the next technical challenge for us is to scale. Scale beyond those 50 APIs, maybe hundreds of APIs, maybe thousands of APIs. I don't know if there are even 1,000 APIs that are valuable in the system, but yeah, that's the direction we are looking at, and to make it scale. But that's currently a challenge, and I don't think we are alone in this, but we're kind of in no man's land for that. And there are different ways, and we're investigating and trying out different approaches. And that might be a version 2 which we release. And talking about releases, that's also why we have this solution published to the SAP store. If we do new updates, yeah, if you install it on your BTP system, if you can manage it on your own, it's fine. But we want to help customers in the way that if we release a new version, if we publish it via our sub-account, everyone can benefit from those updates. They do not have to spend time downloading the new version, updating it, and if there are issues, trying to solve them. So therefore, we also offer this as a software as a service solution, which is in the SAP store. It's purely to help the customers, so they do not have to do the hassle of updates when we release new updates.
That's great, and I'll definitely put the link to the SAP store offering also in the show notes. I think this is an easy start for customers. Then you don't need to be a BTP expert. You don't need to know how to deploy, potentially how to use CLI to configure your BTP sub account or whatever. But you can just use the solution that you have provided and really use it, as you said, as a service. Just consume the results there.
Exactly.
I think one thing, like we were talking about principal propagation. So for the not so technical audience, I would say that it's really using your users' authorizations and roles within SAP to go and fetch that data. And so an end user cannot see what he shouldn't see or cannot access in your system. So I think that's a really important one because it's using the exact same mechanism as what Joule AI from SAP is doing in that sense.
Yeah,
And I think
sorry, good point, Tom, that you mentioned, because it's principal propagation and because it's using OData, you're reusing the authorizations of your Fiori Launchpad, for example. All the APIs, the OData's APIs, they are being exposed for Fiori applications. We are now exposing them to an AI agent, but we are accessing the system with your same user, with the same roles, so you cannot access any data that you're not allowed to. And that makes it secure from agent to backend.
I think that's what we saw, Tom, when you showed the open connection in Teams, basically. Obviously, in Teams, I am, first of all, authenticated with my Entra ID user, and there is no connection to BTP.
Yeah.
But then if the MCP server then, or the client in Teams detects, look, now I want to connect to BTP, it asks you to open this connection, basically. You would click on connect. Then the connection to BTP is established. And if BTP is configured for Entra ID, then actually the token that you already have from your Teams session can be reused. And then you have a token on BTP. And with this BTP token in your user context, obviously, so this is then for me or for you, it depends obviously on the user, then this token is passed via the cloud connector to your backend system, as you said, as you showed, Wouter, to your ECC system potentially, and then you call the OData service in your user context. So if you don't have permissions to fetch data from a certain table, then you will also not get any information back from the SAP system. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, maybe talking about technical aspects. Because it's BTP, we can run the MCP server also on an Azure environment. It's not dedicated to Amazon or Google. You have the flexibility to choose your hyperscaler with BTP. And that's also one of the things. So if you have today like still an on-premise system and you might have, for example, a Copilot, you can already start with AI. And the main goal that I want to achieve here is to enable customers starting to use AI and not have to first go through an S/4HANA upgrade, go do a migration to RISE. Although that is the future and we should do that, and Joule is the long-term vision. But I also think the customers should be able today to start with AI and not be depending on their current system. An upgrade can take a few months, maybe up to a year. And this is a quick starter to start with AI and benefit from your data that you have.
Or the other example that you mentioned before, let's say you already have one system or a few systems running on RISE, so you have Joule available, but you still have then other ECC systems. And with this solution, you can just use the existing Joule client that you have as part of your RISE systems, and then connect the MCP server, which is connected to your ECC system, also to this Joule environment. So, I mean, honestly, I've never tested it. I have no idea how this works. And I just saw the announcement at TechEd that Joule would now, or Joule Studio would now support MCP servers. But for me, I like this potential showcase or this potential scenario that you have Joule because of your RISE environment, but you still have some systems that are not yet Joule enabled, and with this you can then also get the benefits of Joule connected to your S/4HANA and to your non-S/4HANA systems.
Yeah.
Great.
And as Tom also showed, like it's really the powerful is in combination on everything, especially those data which is available on the web, like business data, like your code, like documentation, like your own documentation, wherever it is Confluence. There are adapters for that, either via MCP or Copilot Studio is very powerful with other connectors. So you can just combine everything or let LLM do the combining and then, I don't know, draw some conclusion of that so you don't have to. Like something I have to do as architect sometimes is just, okay, here's the document, where's the relevant information in the document? Okay, look at the code, what kind of data. So this kind of automation of combining data, that's what's really powerful. Like that helps me personally a lot.
Cool. Well, great, Marian. I think that's a nice closing of this session. Tom, Wouter, Marian, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for the presentation. I'm really excited about the things that you have developed there. I think there's so much potential with MCP, and putting this on BTP makes so much sense. So I'm really looking forward to see where this evolves, where the AI data enabler evolves. You already teased version 2. Let's see when this is available, and then also the next versions.
Yeah, I
Great.
don't want to set high expectations, but we try to improve.
You have to,
let's say.
Wouter. I'll push Wouter to get it. To get it.
Sounds good. Great. Then thank you so much, and yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for having us, Holger.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.